Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. For those of you that haven't watched us before, my name's Julie and this is
My name's Alex.
Alex. And we are Airbnb hosts. So we come on here and we share a little bit of our experience with our Airbnb. And specifically today, we're going to share with you the changes that we've made in our first month on Airbnb, as well as how much we made our first month on Airbnb. So we thought you all would be interested to know.
So, in our first 30 days, we have sure learned a lot. And there's been just a few changes that we've made. So, we'll go over those real quick. And, one thing that we did at the beginning was in our welcome message, we asked everybody for their favorite candy for each person that was going to be staying here. We thought it would be a great idea for us to treat our guests with something very specific that they asked for. And the more we learned about it, people were getting back to us very late, kind of last minute. So it would give us just a short time for us to go out and get that specific candy if we didn't already have it here. So we decided to kind of go away from that. And we ended up putting a sign on our candy board, one per guest per stay. And, they can pick out one candy that they like from what we have down there when they get here.
Absolutely. And for me, for both of us being customer service, I would say the reason why we went away from doing a specific candy per guest is, I'm about wowing the guest. We're about wowing the guest, and I feel like it's an anti-wow when you're asking the guest like, "Hey, provide us your favorite candy," and even when they're getting back to you late, and then they do finally get back to you, but it's hours before their stay, and they're like, "Hey, is it too late for this?" And then you feel obligated to run out an hour before their stay and get this candy. Instead, we're just going to wow them and we're going to provide them with candy. And that candy is always going to be there. We'll have a variety, and, they can choose from our selection. When you agree?
I agree. I totally agree. And another thing I think is when they're not expecting something, the wow factor is definitely higher. So another thing we decided to start doing was we decided to start baking fresh chocolate chip cookies and leaving them downstairs for them when they get here. So sometimes it smells like cookies down there. We usually leave a couple per person, and it's just one of those things where people can tell we put in the extra effort for them. When they get here.
Absolutely. Who doesn't love a good, fresh, homemade chocolate chip cookie? I mean, if you don't, sorry, but I love me some homemade chocolate chip cookies. Some other things that we've changed is really based off of guest feedback, or we have a TikTok channel, and we've had some viewers on our TikTok that's even suggested some changes. So I would say one of the big changes that we made is changing our checkout time from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. You want to touch base on how that kind of came about?
Yeah, so we made some videos about kind of mentioning our checkout time, and then we did have a guest that ended up checking out late, and we made a video about that, and people were saying more or less that 10 o'clock was just too early. And it was one of those things where we hadn't had any feedback, any negative feedback, or really any feedback at all about our checkout time. And so it hadn't occurred to us that it could possibly be too early. So we did really take that feedback to heart and really thought about it, talked about it, and there was really no issue with us moving it from 10 to 11. And it does allow guests to, maybe relax a little bit more on that day and maybe drink an extra cup of coffee, or whatever the case may be. Who doesn't like having, an extra cup of coffee in the morning, right? So, and it still gave us plenty of time to turn the unit over for the next guest. So, our feedback from our guests is crucial, and following what people are telling us to make our Airbnb better is definitely a must for us.
Sure. So we've learned something with that, though. we started out our Airbnb with the impression of, hey, we only need um, one set of linens for each bedroom because we ran out our basement as an Airbnb. So we're like, we'll be here. We can go ahead and strip the beds, get everything washed, and do this turnover. But what we learned is it takes a long time to wash all the bedding. And I mean, all the bedding. We wash the sheets, we wash the blankets, we wash everything. And comforters take a long time to dry. So we went out and we purchased an extra set of linens for both beds.
Yep.
And that's been a game changer.
Yeah, because what we didn't realize was we have blankets in the theater room for almost every chair. We have extra blankets that, if they're cold, they might use those in the closet. So, a comforter, one load of laundry could take an hour to wash and then an hour to dry and then so forth. So when you have two beds and extra blankets everywhere, plus you have towels from the bathroom to wash as well, it just takes a lot of time. So this is definitely a game changer for us and has saved us so much time in getting it ready for the next guest.
Yeah, definitely. We also had a guest that had left an electric skillet. And we really don't have a sink in our basement other than the bathroom sink. We have more of a kitchenette versus a full kitchen, a refrigerator and a microwave. So, we looked at that electric skillet as, a sign of how can we make our guests more comfortable here, and just, kind of took that and ran with it.
Yeah. So it kind of made us realize that having more stuff for the guests to be able to cook food in or cook food a different way would be beneficial to them. So we ended up getting an air fryer from the store that can do a whole variety of different things. It could do a rotisserie chicken in it. You can really, I'd say, heat up like pizza better if you went to the restaurant and you wanted to heat those up and things like that. And what can't you do in an air fryer, right? Tons of things that you can do. So we ended up getting one of those.
Well, sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the air fryer has settings on it for baking and all of these different things. So you could take your chicken breast and throw it in there, and bake your chicken or what have you. So we thought it was just a really great investment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's over almost 10 settings on there that you could use. Okay. So we also got some additional dishes and silverware as well. We actually just went and bought a whole new set of silverware. That way we make sure they have enough, and just a better experience all around for being able to, if you want to cook oatmeal or something like that, having extra dishes. So definitely something we did as well.
Absolutely. And, we played around with the idea, I think, previously of paper plates and throwaways and things like that, because we don't have that sink down there for guests to wash their dishes, things like that. And we just figured that the cost factor, it wasn't cost effective. So we tell guests, we don't mind washing your dishes. If they wanted to leave them outside, we haven't done it yet, but we're going to get a bin that they can put their dishes in. They can leave them outside the door and just let us know once they're out there. We'll take them up, wash them, and bring them back down for them at any point in time. So that's always an option. Or they can leave them if they scrape the stuff off of them and set them aside, and we're happy to wash them at the end of their stay.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where we're just doing more for the guests and making sure they're comfortable. So we've taken a lot of our feedback, made changes, and I think it'll be, very beneficial for us in the long run going forward. So,
so we did have, I just wanted to mention this because this was one of our specific guest requests was, you don't realize the things that are needed until, you're in that situation of needing them. We always provide popcorn for the guest. And we had one guest that, just wrote us a private message in our review feedback that was like, it would be great if you could add some scissors into the Airbnb because I almost got popcorn all over the floor when I opened the bag. It was really hard to open. So that's just those simple things. Listening to your guest, we feel is so important, especially in this industry. So that was something else we added.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of those things, like I said, we've opened popcorn down there 1,000 times and never really thought about, we could just go upstairs and get scissors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was great that they mentioned that. We were like, oh, yeah, of course, not a big deal. So with all those changes that we've made, we're going to go into, how many days we had rented out for the month and what we made.
Gosh, I'm so interested in this part. I think the breakdown is always. I've watched other Airbnb hosts on YouTube, and I always find it so interesting to see what people are making. Not only what they're bringing in, but then what their expenses are.
Yeah. In our first full month in January, it was our first, not only is our first full month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our occupancy, might seem low, but we'll kind of get into that. So we'll start there. We had 9 nights that we had rented out from Airbnb and 1 night on vrbo. And that come down to about 32% occupancy in our first month.
And that's based off of a 31-day month, because we always look at how many days are there really in the month, and then how many nights were we booked for.
Absolutely. So we ended up grossing $784.12, and we did have some expenses, and we'll go into those, and then we'll kind of explain why our expenses are pretty low.
Sure. So I believe our total expenses were about $184 and some change. And our expenses through the month, are things. There are a couple of things that we referenced before, like the air fryer was an expense, and that alone accounted for quite a bit of that $184. And the extra linens, both of those played a large factor into the $184 that we spent.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are things, obviously that we wanted to kind of upgrade for the Airbnb. So, and then, next we do have some utilities that we used. But our situation here is a little bit different. So we have our Airbnb as our basement, right? So it's part of our house. So our utilities are already coming in for the rest of our house and what we use. So, we kind of separated them out just as we would for tax purposes, but you're looking at about $60 roughly between electricity and water for down there. So like I said, our utilities are coming in already for the rest of the house. So it's a little bit different for us.
Yeah, and we look at those utilities based on how many nights we actually had guests in the unit. So that $60 would accommodate for those nights. We're not talking about like the full month of utilities. We're also not talking about our utilities for our whole 6,000 square foot house. That's not what we're talking about. We're just breaking it down into what our guests have used for their stay.
Absolutely. And our first month occupancy might seem low with, a little over 30%. But what we want to kind of explain is, with it being a basement Airbnb, we don't have to worry about a mortgage payment. Property taxes are already being paid by our mortgage. And so our situation is just a little bit different. People start Airbnbs out of houses that they bought, renovated, and are now rented out. And so they have a lot higher expenses with, mortgages, property taxes, and things like that. So unfortunately for us, we have a really unique situation to the point where if we go a week without getting stays here, it doesn't hurt us.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest blessings that we have, is that we have this space in our basement for an Airbnb, and we're able to make that space work for us. It's just so important and such a blessing. I know that there are a lot of Airbnbs out there. It's a competitive market. For our first month, I felt like, and that's our first full month. We actually started in December, but our first full month to have a 32% occupancy rate, I thought was amazing. based on our location, based on having a basement rental unit. Those two factors alone. And then aside from that, we're almost through February right now, and I feel like we've had a great month. Especially like this is our second month, and we're just learning and adapting, and yeah, it's been great. So I think those numbers are just going to rise, and we'll really kind of do a wrap up of a 90-day. What we've made in 90 days and how we've made changes along the way over the next month or so.
Yeah, about a month and a half. So, yeah, we're really excited for the future of our short-term rental and being able to share kind of an experience with people with what we have down there. So, like Julie said, we'll do a 90-day recap here in about a month and a half, at the end of March, beginning of April. And we'll swing back and we'll kind of go over anything else that we've learned, more changes that we've made. There will be some more changes, I think, coming up that we'll do a video on and then share with you guys. So if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel and share it out so other people can see and follow along with our journey on our Airbnb. So again, thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you guys on the next video.